Welcome to the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, where rude mechanicals do magic. Hello, I'm Bronze Age, Director of the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage. And today we're going to be rewiring and repairing an ambiguously named table floor lamp made by Stiffle. Now the overall style is got classical motifs, but I would say it's probably late 60s, early 70s. The cord appears to be original, and we have a non-polarized plug, so that again puts it before 1973. The base is actually an alloy, which we would know as pewter, pot metal, white metal, whatever, with a brass plate over it. The name pot metal comes from the old days when a shop would have a small crucible that would be kept hot most of the time with molten metal in it. Any scraps of tin, copper, zinc, that sort of stuff would get tossed into it. And whenever a small part was needed to be cast, it would be cast out of the pot metal. In Europe and France, places like that, they call this white metal as to distinguish it from brass and bronze. The Stiffle Company was founded in 1932, and they are still in business producing high-end, high-quality lamps for homes, businesses, and just about any place else that you'd like a pretty lamp. Originally, they had the name cast into the pieces, but now by the 70s, which is the vintage of this lamp, we're down to just a little gold foil label on the socket. One of Stiffle's distinctive designs was the floor lamp with this glass table in the middle of it, and it was perfect to sit beside a chair, and it had this brass ring that went around it, supported by these little pedestals, and it has come apart, so that's one thing we're going to have to repair today. Now the little pedestals are held down with epoxy, and I like to let that sit overnight before it's handled, so that'll be the last step of the repair. Practically every socket of this design has a little spot here where it's got press stamped into the metal, and that means that you can push your thumb there and the thing will come apart most of the time. Sometimes they're just too tight, and how strong can your thumb be? So I've got this little tool I've made from a kitchen paring tool. I grind the edge down flat so I don't cut myself, and the tip I've ground off flat, sort of like a little thin screwdriver, and it goes in like that and pops it out with no trouble at all. Now here we see another common feature in Stiffles, is that they have the large lamp pipe, which is about twice the size of your ordinary table lamp, like this. This is the socket that's going to be going back on. Fortunately, I have an adapter that'll make that quite easy. The customer has requested this particular style of socket, which has the ring that holds it together instead of it just snapping, and it has this nice little brass key. Now this knot is here to prevent the cord from getting jerked out of the lamp if somebody trips over the cord in the dark, which is never a good thing because you're going to have bare wires either inside the metal case or maybe even laying there on the carpet. Now, when you replace the cord, very important point, put it through this little hole first. Because if you get all the way back up to the top and got your socket installed, you're going to have to take it all back apart again. I'll pull out as much as I need here, and go ahead and put the knot in it now, because it will be too late to do it later. Now, there's a variety of ways to get the wire up through the cord. You can just simply push it, and on little short lamps, that will usually work. I have found through experience that floor lamps, there's just too much friction inside the pipe so that it will eventually jam up, and you've got to pull it back out and come up with a different way to do it. And in this case, I'm going to solder the old cord to the new cord, and that'll give me a good strong connection that I can pull and not worry about it coming loose halfway through. Now, if the lamp was a little taller, this would be a two-person operation, but it's just short enough. It's two-handed. I'll pull at one end, and it comes right out. Now, when I soldered these two cords together, I saved a lot of time and made a little bit more work for myself. When you buy a cord set, it comes with the ends tinned. And what that means is because lamp cord that is sold is multi-stranded, many pieces of wire in there, it is a violation of the National Electrical Code to put multi-stranded wire under a screw terminal. And the solution to that is to put a little drop of solder on the ends of the wires. Now you want it just on the tip so that it will be easy to curl the wire around the screw. Now the short little sermon I give on every video about wiring a lamp. Lamp cord comes put together like this, two pieces, two wires. One side, the insulation has ridges that you can feel with your fingers. One side is smooth. The socket has a brass colored screw and a silver colored screw. The wire with the ridged insulation always goes under the silver screw. You wrap it around it clockwise so that when you tighten it down, it will pull the wire under the screw instead of pushing it out. Just like that. Now it's Monday, and we have to deal with the problem of this big brass ring. Now this piece is not just ornamental. You've got a glass tabletop here that when it's nice and clean and in a dim room is practically invisible. Walking across the room, catch it with your knee, that is not going to feel good at all. But more importantly, if you're sitting beside it with a glass in your hand, you need some sort of visual reference to where the table actually is, because you might miss it completely or just get it on the edge and there you go. Now my immediate problem is the residue of the glue that originally held these little pedestals down shows that there were 5. And as you can see, there's only 4. Besides that, the gap in the ring here is loose. It was made that way. One of the little pedestals hid the gap, and since there were 4 more, it all held it in place. I'm a little bit apprehensive about putting it back together with only 4. So what I want to do is solder this back together and then glue them down in this pattern. I counted all the pedestals about a dozen times just to make sure there still was 4. I wasn't leaving one back on the bench. And then made a jig because I'm going to solder this together. And even though soldering is more forgiving than welding, or in this case it would be brazing, I really only want to do it once. And having it clamped in place where it can't move and as straight, or as in this case, as round as I can possibly get it, is going to make a lot of difference as to how well this job comes out. To prepare for the solder, I want it to be really clean. So I'll take a file and just take a little bit, and then I have flux, which is a chemical which will clean any of the oxides that have built up and prevent a good adhesion of the solder. I'm using solder because it's a lot more forgiving than welding, or brazing in this case. And the idea is that the solder is going to flow and it'll go to wherever the flux was and stick and make this into one ring. I use this silver solder, which has a high copper content, so it comes out more of a brass color than a silver color. And let's see how this is going to work. Alright, that passed the test. Now I've got to clean this up, some file work, and get one of those little pedestals to slide over the joint. Alright, that is going to do the job. Now we once again have to rise to the challenge of capturing glass on videotape, but I hope this comes out clear enough. This ring is no longer perfectly round, because nothing is once it's been bent out of shape, but it's pretty close. And so what I've done is I've taken masking tape so I can mark on the glass 4 points exactly 90 degrees apart. And I took a little small square and I measure in about 1/8 of an inch, which is where I want each pedestal to go. Taking a piece of hardboard here with a generous bit of wax on the template, and that is going to hold it in position. And then after the epoxy is applied, I'll clamp it like that and pull the card back so that any squeeze out of epoxy won't get on there. And I'm not going to film the epoxy because I have learned that when you're trying to do something like that while you're paying attention to the camera at the same time, just leads to bad stuff happening. Well, I guess that stuck pretty tight. It's been 24 hours for the 5-minute epoxy to set up. I don't really believe there is any such thing as 5-minute epoxy. Well, this is Bronze Age for the Secret Underground Laboratory. Thank you for sitting through this video with me. I appreciate it if you would like to subscribe. Please make comments, ask questions about anything that concerns whatever happens here. That's lighting and furniture repair. I do respond to all comments. And again, thank you for watching.